Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Let me start again. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group. The date is the 14th of July, 2025. Okay, welcome. Forgive me if part of me seems a little bit distracted. I've got a 3-year-old that is totally kicking off just outside. So, yeah, forgive me. I think she's just gone. I said the door shut. She's gone to bed. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping before we do. Yeah, we got a retreat coming up 15th and 19th of August in Coniston in the Lake District. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Please have a look at the video. And if you know of anybody who may be interested, please pass it on to them. It's going to be a wonderful thing. 4 days, dinner, bed and breakfast. Bring your walking stuff, bring your cycling stuff, bring your open water swimming stuff, cold plunge. It's got sauna. It's in a really awesome spot in the Lake District, and it's with Jen and I. And it'll be a really, really beautiful event. Please take a look. Please consider coming. Also, what else? This is a via donation event. Now, tonight's a little bit different. Okay, I've got a good friend of mine here from South Africa, a gentleman. No, God knows where Godel's from. The DRC. Originally, it started. He's from the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. But I met Godel in South Africa. Tonight's a little bit different. This is a via donation event, but tonight all the donations are going to go to Godel and his family, as he's just got new refugee status in New Zealand. So,
Oh, wow.
this is a most wonderful man. You'll be getting to meet him, and we hope that you fall in love with him like we have. So tonight, all the donations are going to be going to Godel. If you're watching this in catch up and you make a donation, please make it to the usual links below in the description. But if you could please put in the description, in the comment, whatever, in the reference, please could you put the word Godel, which is spelled Godel. Okay. If you could do that, and then we know the money's going to Godel, we'll just transfer it straight over to him. Okay. So tonight is about Godel Sefu. So this is a via donation event. And like we do this to make it available to everybody. You know, we put these out. We need to make a living. Godel needs to make a living. Your generosity help keeps us going. Okay, so we really, really sincerely thank you, everybody who makes donations. You are so appreciated. We don't get back to everybody because we can't, but please understand that every single time a donation is made, we feel loved. Right, it's lovely, it's beautiful. So please, everybody, give generously to this man. He's a truly, truly beautiful man. Jen will be joining me soon once she's got Lucia to sleep. That can take anything from 3 minutes to 3 days. So somewhere in that point we'll be hopefully graced with Jenny's presence. Anything else? Yeah, if you want to come and work with us, get in touch. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Please like, subscribe, the other one, and comment. Share and comment. All right. Okay, I can still hear loose. Mr. Sefu, thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Yeah.
I just wondered if we could start by, I thought we'd start by just having a little conversation about when we first met, and I'd love to hear a little bit about, if you could share people with a little bit of your backstory, that would be great. What led you up to kind of where you are now? I know it's a big story. If you can kind of keep it compact, that would be wonderful. Please, mate.
Thank you, Dave, and good evening to everyone. Yes, so my name is Godel Sefu, as Dave said. I am from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I lived in South Africa for 18 years before moving to New Zealand as a refugee. So, 2 days Yeah, so that was for so 14. So actually, there you still on 14th of July, yeah. So
We're on the
on
14th of July. Yeah, you're a day ahead.
14. Okay, so we have 15 here. So let's say one day before. So that was 13th of July. We were kind of celebrating 7 years of. So that was the birthday of my daughter, who is called Tracy. 7 years. So, and that was, I can say, 7 years of happiness and gratitude for having her in my life of refugee, and not only a refugee, but someone also living with a disability. And that also is 7 years of myself being born to the three principles. Um, So, and this happened in 2018, and born to three principals in July through Dave and Jen when they visited South Africa. So, and this for me was like I was born to another way of understanding myself, born to another way of understanding God, and born to experiencing peace within. So, and those are three things that if you give me a time, I can talk for hours about those three things. So I was born to, oh, okay, Lucia. Good evening there, Lucia. Good evening, Jen. Yeah, so I said first that that was 7 years of understanding my life, because it was for me very difficult to understanding my life. So someone who was on the way to become a Roman Catholic priest, and then just at the end, waiting to be ordained, and then I had to experience disability. And there is a law in a Roman Catholic church. Uh, it's called canonic law that put me completely aside because I was now a physically disabled person. And then after that, I had to leave my country because of war, and that is Goma, DRC, because I'm from Goma. Those who know Goma, where there is even war now, where the M23 are ruling. So that's my place exactly. So I had to leave that place. I had to go to South Africa. And in South Africa, where I had to experience xenophobia to the point that I was about to be burnt alive because of being foreigner in South Africa. So you can see all these reality that I went through, being Roman Catholic priest, and then physically disabled, and then a refugee. Then I came to a point that for me, I started feeling like I should just end my life. I should just kill myself because I didn't see any meaning to my life anymore. I had to just disappear and die. So I thought about suicide. And then years later, when we met with Dave and Jen, and then they introduced me to three principles, I understood that all of this part of life I went through were like preparing me to a mission. So I understood my life that it was a mission. I had to go through this that we call, like French, we call vague, there's kind of storms to get to understand that I had a mission. And for me, that mission was exactly a mission to the people that look like me, the people that are refugees, the people that physically disabled. And then I understood this, and I started really focusing to doing something, to making a difference in that community of refugees living with disabilities, and mostly helping those who are victim of xenophobia like myself, to making sure that they are protected. So that's what briefly I can say about my understanding, my new understanding about my life. So I get to understand that my life was on a mission. So I didn't have to kill myself. I didn't commit suicide. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to think about all the wrong thing, but I had to focus on seeing myself on a mission. So there is also that new understanding of God. So for me, with everything that I went through, I thought that God was against me. So for me, God was really, so I hated God. I really hated God. I didn't like to be around I couldn't go to to church anymore, and couldn't want to listen to somebody talking about God. But then with the three principles in July exactly 2018, I came to understand that, so that reality that I was fighting was actually within me. So God wasn't where I was thinking he was. He was inside here. He was within me. So it means that I was fighting a reality within me. I was fighting myself. So I had to understand exactly that I am somehow that God. And you know, the God that we know, that I know, is the God who is a creator, the God that creates. And once I came to understand exactly that the God that I was fighting, the God that I wanted to, so that reality of what was even what was within me, it means that somehow I am also a creator. So it means that I can create the reality that I want to see myself. I can create it. But what do I need to do? Because I need to understand that as we have been taught when we were growing up in Africa, that there is Satan on a side and there is God on another side. The reality that block your life, that block my life, that means Satan. The reality that open your life to opportunity, all this, that is God. So who is my Satan and who is God? So the three principles, through the three principles, I understood exactly that Satan for me was exactly my thought, my own thought. The more I focus on negative thoughts, exactly, I'm living with Satan. I'm embracing Satan. And when I change those thoughts, exactly, I can feel the reality of God within me. So that was the new understanding of the reality of God. But then where did I get with this? It's exactly to peace within, because if I have to fight God, I'm fighting against myself. So briefly, that's what I can say this evening.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Thank you, Godel. Yeah, when we didn't know any of that when we first met Godel. The way we met Godel was through a friend in South Africa in Johannesburg, Leanne, a lady called Leanne. And she said to me, she said, Dave, I want to see this in a real life situation, what you're talking about. I want to see it in a real life situation. Could you arrange something? I said, no. I said, look, you lot, they've been through a 6-month program with Jen and I said, you lot are the pioneers. You are the pioneers in Johannesburg. It's up to you to create this. That's why we're doing this. And in a couple of days, as seems to happen in Johannesburg, things happen. And next thing, Leanne's going, I've got this charity called Redeeming Hope for the Disabled. Will you come and speak at it? And we're like, yeah, so long as you speak with us, Leanne. And so Jen, Leanne, and myself, we went to Godel's place, which is on the outskirts of Soweto. Now, Soweto, is Soweto the biggest township in South Africa?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the biggest. So there is Kailicha, which is in Cape Town, and Soweto. It's very big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
so yeah, Kailicha in Cape Town and Soweto in Johannesburg.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, because we did some work in Kailicha as well. And then we went to Godel's place, and there was some certain things that hit us. I mean, as you can imagine, we come from, we're not therapists, we're not psychologists or anything like that, but we're talking about the mind. So naturally, as you start to talk about the mind, people will talk about what they remember and experiences and stuff. And some of the experiences that we got to hear, some of these the traumatic experiences of the people that came to live with Godel, came to stay at his place. Godel's spot was amazing. He taught them how to grow food. He taught them how to sew, like create things to make a living. But some of the stories were absolutely. I mean, Godel himself, he mentioned there, he didn't quite go into the depth of being petrol bombed, whereby Godel's in a wheelchair and you had a step in your house, is that correct? And your house was on fire and you couldn't get out because of the step. But the police saved you, is that correct?
Exactly. So that was on 11. Like I can't forget that. So that
What?
was on 11 of May 2008. Exactly. That I was about to be burnt alive. And that's exactly the experience of xenophobia, where a group of South African guys wanted to throw bombs, petrol bomb on the house where I was living, and there are a couple of steps. So and I had to. So there was no one in the house. Everyone left. So some have to use the windows, the others had to use the door behind, and then I was remaining alone in the house. So I couldn't go out. And I was just waiting actually to die. And for me, it was like I was dead already. And then the police just came at the very last minute, and I got saved like this. Oh, saved like this by the police before the guy could throw the petrol bomb on the house where I was living. So yeah, that's the experience of the xenophobia that I had in South Africa, on 11 of May 2008.
When? Do you want to say anything?
I don't mean to interrupt you, Godel, but between I have a little bit of a hearing loss and your accent, which is different from Dave's accent. Are you saying that you were almost burned alive, as in fire, like burned, bomb, burned alive? Is that the words you're using?
So I was exactly about to be burnt alive on 11 of May 2008 in Johannesburg. Bertrams.
Yeah,
And
it
it
was
was xenophobia, meaning
petrol bomb.
That's
hatred among people groups.
hatred, yeah. So it was hatred against the
The other.
foreigners that are in South Africa, exactly. The foreigners, the foreign nationals.
It's quite a complex thing in South Africa, isn't it? That's one of the things we noticed because as ignorant people who don't come from South Africa, when we went to work out there, we thought, well, the racism will be between blacks and whites, but it isn't. It's also between like people coming, anybody coming from anywhere in Africa into South Africa can find themselves facing a hard time because they're seen as taking jobs and stuff. And
Yeah.
no, Godel was petrol bombed. His house was petrol bombed in an attempt
Wow.
to get rid of them.
So and that was one of the reasons that I had to move to leave South Africa, because as a person living with disability, that was the reality that so I was exposed. I was an easy target. So I had to leave with my family. I had to leave the country to make sure that I can feel safe. And that
Were
was
you in the
the
wheel?
reason
Were
that
you in the wheel? Were you in the wheelchair before you were petrol bombed?
I was in the wheelchair before, and I'm still in the wheelchair. So
No,
yeah,
right. But I mean, it okay. And so that between that and the fact that you were from some other country, from Congo, you were xenophobic because we don't like people in wheelchairs and we don't like people from another country.
we don't like people from another country. It just happened that I was on the wheelchair and being easy target, but we were all
Gotcha.
targeted,
Okay.
all of us, not only the people in
Okay.
wheelchair. Mm.
Yeah.
I remember going to Redeeming Hope because Godel's charity, is it still running, Godel?
Yeah, Redeeming Hope is still running. I left it running, so I left it in the hand of other the fellow people with disabilities that are running it up to now.
Cool. Yeah, so Godel started something called Redeeming Hope for the Disabled, which is where disabled refugees, you heard, like disabled refugees can come. And I mean, let's go there. Let's go there tonight. It was because some of these stories are horrific, seeing men sit there in front of you and tell you about their sisters being raped in front of them, and their mothers being raped in front of them and the fathers killed and stuff like that, and their brothers being necklaced, which is, forgive me, this is horrific, but we're going there. This is a reality on planet Earth where they stick a tie around somebody's neck, fill it full of petrol, and chuck them out, John. Having these people sit in this circle and tell you about their stories. And what fascinated Jenny and I the most was, I don't even know if I'd use the word strength. Strength wasn't even a thing. I honestly would struggle to find the word. They loved one. They kind of there was this. I'm going to use the word strength. This strength within these people, but that word doesn't summarize our experience. It's not an accurate description of what you actually experience when you're with these people. It was like there was a stillness in these people. And the thing that shone to us the most was love. What Godel had created was a sanctuary where love was able to thrive, and it really did. Clearly, you've got people in wheelchairs there, and you've got people who've lost a limb, and but perhaps the person who's lost a limb can help somebody else, and people go and get each other food. Those that are more capable went and got the food for the others that aren't capable of getting the food. And the amount of love that existed within that place, it blew us away. And I remember Jenny and I, like when the first time we went, or was it second day or something like that, we're driving back to where we were staying, and we barely spoke. We were just kind of, we're in shock at some of the stories that we were hearing, and we were in awe of the people who had come out the other side of all of this, who were still present on this earth on the other side of it all. And it was a truly, it was one of my favorite ever places to work to this day. It's been one of my absolute favorites. But I remember, Godel, you only came on the second day, didn't you? Is that correct?
That's true.
Yeah. Can you remember exactly? Do you remember what it was that, like, what if you could speak about it, what was it in it that you heard that allowed you to kind of find what you found? Can you remember? Can you articulate anything? What was the insight?
There's so many things, man. There are so many things. You know, if I could just um, speak about the reality in South Africa and that connection of three principles with three principles. You know, we 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 suffer a lot in South Africa as foreigners. We suffer a lot. And sometimes we ask ourselves if you are still humans, if we are still humans, to see the way that we are treated. So the details, guys, are not really good. No, there are times that as a physically disabled person, for example, I'll go to Home Affairs, and that's the government. Let's leave the people. Because actually the people that wanted to kill us, but we did understand that it was even over the level of the people. There was an issue with the system. So we go, for example, to extend our document as refugees. But then you go there and then you are refused the opportunity to go in and get your document renewed so that the police will be with you. Then you'll have to deal with the police. And imagine someone with disability. I go there like 4 in the morning, I'm already there at the gate, and we have to fight to get a way to go inside. How will I fight to get through Home Affairs? And when the authority comes, they don't care. You get the paper or not. And then we have to spend weeks outside there. And sometimes you won't even get that paper. My wife spent 3 weeks to the point that she started getting sick. She was sleeping outside and she never got the opportunity to extend her document. So we were living in South Africa and she was undocumented. And she couldn't get any job while she is a technician of laboratory. You can just imagine those things. So there is a lot there is a lot of suffering of the reality that we went through and that people still going through. And when we are outside there, sometimes we will be beaten. So people will come with stick, all right? Stick and beat us just because we are a foreigner. You are outside the Home Affairs waiting for you to go inside, but then you'll be beaten like animal. So something that you never experienced back home, even though we went through evil, but then we had to find more of suffering in South Africa. But then, with the three principles, question will be, for me, the question that was coming to me was like, okay, is it necessary to do the very same thing, what I'm receiving here? Will it be the answer one day that I give back the very same suffering that I'm receiving now from South Africans? Do I need to complain? Do I need to fight back? Do I need to hate? But then, as they were saying right now, the answer was just love. Just accepting what it is and just loving those people. And through that, for me, I was finding like some peace within. As it's okay, I just need to accept this and love whatever. I have to love these guys and understand that this is part of it. I am on my mission here with this life, and this is part of it. I have to learn through all these and get somewhere in life. So all these are steps towards somewhere where I'm going with my life. So that acceptation, that love towards South Africans, I think was part of the keys that end up sending me where I am, because for me, it's a miracle that I am here. It's just a miracle that I can be here, myself and my family. It's really a miracle. And I can't really explain with detail that this is what really happened, but I saw God into the whole thing. It's God into the whole thing. So, but on top of this was also that change of mind, the change of the way that I was thinking. Because as I said, I could decide to be a guy to hate South Africans. I could be the guy to complain, but I decided to change, stopping complaining, stopping thinking negative, and change, think the other way around. So changing my thought at some point, that also changed my reality. It changed my life. So through changing my thought. So that's what I can say, Dave. So my secret for me was that just to change the way I was thinking about the whole reality, the way I was thinking about my physical disability, the way I was thinking about being a refugee, the way I was thinking about all the suffering. So that change, I think it's something that produced everything. It's something that created everything. And it's something that made it for me to be where I am right now.
Thank you, mate. As you were speaking, I'm reminded of a quote of a man named is a Christian priest from America. His name, what the heck's his name? It'll come to me. But I was listening
Richard
to a
Rohr?
talk. Pardon?
Richard Rohr?
No. But he was doing a talk, and it was on Spotify, and I saw this, the mystery of the Essenes. I was interested in, and I thought, oh, the Essenes. I don't really know much about the Essenes, and I started listening to the Essenes. And as he went on, he explained how they believed Jesus was an Essene, or at least he went and worked with them. And Mary Magdalene, an Essene, also not a prostitute, an Essene. An Essene he described as being. He said they saw them, so they were a very secretive kind of community of people in Israel during the time of Christ. And they kept themselves hidden because they kind of they said they were kind of like they were almost like separate to the rest of humanity. And he said it wasn't anything to do with skin color or anything like that, or gender. He said it was to do with what they described as their inner luminescence, their inner light. It was their light. He said anybody could be in a scene. It doesn't matter where in the world you came from. You could be in a scene if you shone with this scenic light. And he said in the scene culture, everybody was equal. Man, woman, child were equal. So it was kind of a utopia. Every child above the age of 3 was kind of given the ability to explore and live its own life, his or her own life. And everybody was equal, no hierarchy, everything is shared, almost like some kind of utopia. And as I was listening to this, I stopped the recording, I rewound it because I heard something. I'm going to roughly quote it. He said, the Essenes, therefore, saw thought as the highest, most powerful force in the universe. This is somebody who wasn't anything to do with the 3 principles. He's a Christian vicar who he's interested in Christian mysticism. Now, mysticism, it doesn't matter what religion you come from, mysticism is mysticism. You know, a Christian mystic could speak to a Hindu, could speak to an Islamic mystic. You know, they could speak to an enlightened soul, and they would all have the same conversation. You know, the mystics are running throughout all cultures, and this just so happens to be a Christian who's interested in mysticism talking about it. He said, the Essenes, therefore, saw thought as the highest, most powerful force in the universe, as it was seen as both the instigator of feeling and action. The Essenes, therefore, trained themselves to harness this power in a positive way, knowing that each thought that they sent forth went into the collective consciousness of humanity and affected the whole. I was just reminded of that as you what is his name? As you were speaking just then, Godel. And it was like you found that highest, most powerful, the highest, most powerful force in the universe. And I as I say that, I just want to just for a moment just stop at that point and just consider that point, because thought is seen as the instigator of both feeling and action. Thought, the power of thought. Okay, now that to me, as I can see Godel nodding his head there, I know Godel agrees with that statement. You know, that to me is no small point. The highest, most powerful force in the universe is within us, as Godel has started off this conversation with. You know what I found, and I found God when I found that creator. When I found that highest, most powerful force is within me, it changed everything. You know, that's a really, really wonderful thing. And I remember sitting, Godel, I remember sitting and sitting on your lawn, and we did that interview. The interview, by the way, is up on YouTube. You can find it. It's on our Freedom Thinking channel. But I remember you saying something about this will change the world. And I said to you, I said the words, do you really think it's that simple? And you just returned with this most beautiful comment. You just said, because we were talking about peace on earth, I think the conversation went around to peace on earth, and how when people start to understand what the 3 principles are pointing to, it can change the world. It can change the world. And you said it, and I said, is it really? Do you think it's really that simple, Godel? And you just said, Dave, I really don't think it's that complicated. And I remember it being just, if you could take that little section of conversation of you saying that and just play it to the frigging world, you know, we could have the foundation of something fantastic. Godel, could you talk a little bit about, like, you know that this has changed your life, and we know that this has changed our lives, and we know it's changed many other people's lives. Could you talk about a little bit about how you see it, how if people could understand the principles, how it could bring around a more positive timeline for humanity. Is that something you could do?
So, brother, for me, I can talk about my background. I think someone who had the background like me, someone who grew up into a kind of religious system, a deeply Roman Catholic person, and about to become a Roman Catholic priest, and then who have gone through that war that we have in DRC from 2000, no, from 96 up to now. And seeing how we are still doing things in this world to make things so difficult to others and stuff. And the way I've seen the three principles, for me, it was like, if we could give the world that opportunity to connect with three principles, maybe we can get somewhere as a solution to our world, our universe, our cosmos. Why? Because what I still remember in that video, and mostly that connection that I had with the three principles was that when someone understands that everything that is happening in this world starts somewhere in someone's heart or also in someone's thought. Because if there is war, for example, we need to understand that it started somewhere in someone's head, in someone's thought. Someone had to think about that. And then that came to materialize some way because someone thought about that. So if there is suffering somewhere in my life, I need to understand that I've thought somehow about that and that today is materializing. So that if I can learn about changing my thoughts, I will change my reality and I can change the world because changing the world is not about going out there and tell them, listen, Dave, change this, change it, and this. For me, it's about changing myself. If I can change myself, if I change myself, if I change my thought, I change myself, then I change the world. So if those people that are creating suffering in this world, if those people that are creating war back in my country, the people that are making xenophobia being a possibility in South Africa, the people that are making life so difficult can just change their thought, seeing beauty about themselves because it, it there is a struggle somewhere in their mind that is making it difficult for themselves and now exteriorizing it outside there through what we are seeing as suffering. So if they change that, and exactly the world will be different because they will come to change themselves. They won't be the very same people. And then once they change themselves, they change the world because your world, this is my world. I've changed it. And then that will have the impact outside there. And that's the way that we can change this world. So that's a thing that I do believe, that the solution to this world, it's within us, man. It's not about going out there, creating this, do this. No, we are the solution. Everyone is a solution to this world. Everyone. It's just a step, bam. I change this within myself. And then we change exactly. The reality will change. We'll see things differently from the minute that we change that in our mind, in our thoughts. So it's something that I believe deeply in that, man. And we have another thing here. Religion. So I'm talking here from someone who was about to become a Roman Catholic priest. We have an issue around the religion. And the religion also is creating a lot of suffering. But man, when are we gonna be able to understand that God we are fighting for, that God is here within us? God is in here. So I think once we connect to that, and the principles is able to connect people to this, once we connect to this, we will have peace within us. And once we have peace, that peace will reflect outside there. And the world also will experience peace. But why we still don't want to connect with God? We still been going to church, and then the church will tell us that, okay, God is in the heaven, he's somewhere far from you, but God is not there. The three principles will tell us exactly that. We have God within us. We are somehow that God, that image of God. If we want to create the world that we want to see, we can do that. We have that power to do that. Everyone has that power. But why don't we just connect to that? That's the big question. So, yeah, there is a lot, my brother. There is a lot. Those are some of the things that I do believe in, but all these through the three principles. So I do believe that there is a lot that three principles can do for this world. I do believe. I do believe.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's realized the truth of what the principles is pointing to, it's, forgive me, flapping flies about millions of them in this blooming house at the moment. Yeah, when it's realized, because some people that can still. By the way, I think just to kind of go back to Godel just in this moment, this fucking call should be flooded. It should have thousands of people on it who are interested in understanding how to bring about peace in this world. I love the way that you say something that isn't just a nice idea. You're talking absolute fundamental fact. You cannot have peace in this world as long as there's conflict in the mind. Impossible. Impossible. And so it's what you're proposing there, Godel, is the answer to world peace. And that's no small thing. The answer to world peace doesn't lie in anything other than the consciousness of mankind. The same as war. War doesn't exist anywhere outside of the consciousness of mankind. It starts, as you so beautifully articulated, it starts with a thought inside somebody, usually somebody who has the means and the power in order to instigate war and the wealth to back it up. you know, but also, you know, you can have that on the global scale, but then you can also have war in your family. You can have war in, you know, in your communities, and or in, you know, in Soweto, in your streets. Do you know what I mean? Or in Kendal, there was a lad stabbed the other day, you know, and it's because it doesn't exist outside of the mind. And this is why thought, being the highest, most powerful force in the universe, is something that mankind has to start to understand. You are playing with a force that will bring every reality to life. You know, we're playing blindly with a force that will bring all realities to life. I'm not a religious man, but like Jesus said in the book of Thomas, again, can be seen. Theodore Nottingham is the man's name I was quoting. Theodore Nottingham. Theodore Nottingham also did a wonderful talk on the lost chapters of Thomas, which were removed from the Bible 200 years after it was initially written, the New Testament. They took out a book, an entire book, the entire chapters of Thomas. And I understand why they were removed. If I wanted to maintain power over people, I would probably remove the book of Thomas, because as Godel so beautifully articulated, no, Jesus is asked the question in the book of Thomas, and not all that book of Thomas is 114 sayings. That's all it is. It's just 114 sayings. There were 3 copies of it found within a couple of years of each other. So within a couple of years, over nigh on 2 millennia, sorry, within a couple of years of each other, 3 copies were found, like it was the time for this to come back into Earth. Now's the time. There's 3 copies, planet Earth, in case one gets burnt, in case one gets burnt by the mother of the kids that found it. That's what happened to one of the Book of Thomases that were found. The mother used it to light the fire. The kids came home with these ancient scrolls, and the mum used it to light the fire. Some of it. Anyway, but in the book of Thomas, apparently, in the book of Thomas, you know, Jesus is asked the question, he's asked, where is this God's kingdom? Where is this kingdom of heaven? And he says, his answer to it on one occasion is, God's kingdom is within the heart of every man, woman, and child. Like what Godel was speaking about. When he discovered, I somehow am that creator. The kingdom of creation, the creator dwells within. We are not some pissy little thing. We are not some victim. We are divine creator spiritual beings. Now, people can not like that. Congratulations, you are using your spiritual divine power of thought to create that reality. You're using the very, very force that you are denying to create the denial. Just notice that. Just become aware of that, people. Okay, so it's like this isn't something new. This isn't something that's new. We're talking about something that precedes humanity, the power of thought, consciousness, divine mind to bring about realities. And in these realities, like if you want to meet somebody who has every right to be bitter, twisted, upset, depressed, meet my man here. I think people can clearly see that isn't who you meet. So therefore, you know, I know people who on the outside, you would look at them and go, what have you got to worry about? What have you got to suffer? What have you got? Why are you, you know, you've got no reason to be depressed. Look at Godel. He's got every reason to be depressed, but he's not. And it's like, before I understood that it isn't about inside, it isn't about outside, it isn't about the past, it's about what's inside now. The level of consciousness that the individual is at now will determine the reality that they encounter. You know, if somebody is living in ignorance, and by ignorance, that's not, I don't mean that in a kind of derogatory sense. Ignorance in this sense I'm just talking about is something you cannot know what you do not know. It's impossible. Full stop. You cannot know what you do not know. That's not ignorance in a judgmental, horrible way. It's just ignorance in the terms of it's an innocent ignorance. And I'm innocently ignorant about all kinds of things, you know, and so, but if like I look back at my life, like Godel, you know, I've got to the point where I wanted to take my own life, as many people know, and it was born of ignorance. There was something else you said, Godel. I can't remember. There's something that was just coming back to me. But it was when, like Godel, for myself, when that connection was made to the spiritual, you know, when the realization or the noticing was had that this is a spiritual thing, living life is a spiritual thing. There is something greater than my little identity, my little personality. There is something that creates that little identity, that little personality. There is something that is more powerful than my little ego, my little intellect, because my ego, my intellect is actually being born of something. And isn't that taking place within me? Therefore, am I not that thing that little intellect, that little personality, that little ego is being born from? Am I not that more powerful thing than my ego? And in that moment of realization, it was just a collapsing of my ego. It just died. It literally vanished. It doesn't mean I don't have ego now. I've totally got ego, but a version of myself left. And it's interesting because Godel was just saying so beautifully again about how, you know, when thought changes, you live in a different world. And that's a literal, you literally live in a different world. You walk on the same planet, literally though, in a different world. You see a different world. And for some reason, we human beings have got lost into the idea that the reality that we see is outside of ourselves. Even though once you start to find the evidence, you know, you start to realize separate realities. Well, if we're all living in separate realities and we all see a different world, is the world I see truly outside of myself, or is it inside of myself? Is it coming from within me? You know, it's really obvious little thing to look at. And you realize, oh no, it must be coming from in me, just like everybody else's reality must be coming from inside of them. But everybody thinks that their reality is the truth. Everybody thinks their reality is the true, real reality. That's why there's argument and that's why there's war. And I love what you've just been saying there, mate. You know, because I genuinely think that this call should have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people on it who are interested in peace. We didn't know where this conversation was actually going to go tonight, so that couldn't really happen. But I hope that people really do share this conversation, because there is an answer. And it's like Godel said to me once, I really don't think it's that complicated, Dave. I'm with Godel on that one. Wendy, you've got your hand up, love.
Yeah, this is
Brother,
Sorry.
yes, good. Yes, Wendy. Yes, yes. I just
yeah,
wanted to
no,
make a comment, but I'll come back. I'll come after that.
okay. Yeah, this is moving, and it's recognizable, and it's foreign, all in there for me. Foreign meaning, could I do that? And it's recognizable because I have done it to some degree at some times. So this is my favorite subject. Dave's gonna go, oh, Wendy, no.
Does it begin with T
Yeah,
and end in P?
it ends in P.
Is your tap
Yes.
dripping again?
Huh?
Is your tap dripping again? Forget it.
So it doesn't have to be that. So
Go
if
on,
I
say it.
was,
Say it when it's community.
it doesn't really
We
have to
can't
be that.
we can't have a
It's
community group without you mentioning the T word.
the T, Trump. Yeah. So there are people that are in my community that literally like live right around here. that I guess don't have the right paperwork to avoid being manhandled and pulled from their vehicle and put away from their family because there are policies in place by somebody else that has a lot of power and influence, the president, and says, this is what I'm sending my guys to do, my whatever, my policemen, whatever you want to call them, to do. ICE, we call it. So there's physical pain, like there was physical pain when people were beating you with a stick. So that is outside in. Somebody is taking a stick to your body. Somebody is manhandling people that I don't know personally, but people in my community, like a lot closer than I've ever experienced before, people being removed from their cars and put somewhere else and separated from their families. So these are painful interactions, physical, skin on skin, human contact pain. So is there, what I'm hearing you say, Godel, is there's a difference between sustaining pain and experiencing suffering. And you made a shift to say, it's me that is coloring this behavior. I'm being beaten with a stick, and I can either choose to forgive in the moment and or not hurt. I don't know. I don't know what I'm asking, but there is a reality, right? There is a stick touching your body. And you have the chance to paint a picture describing that reality in whatever way you've chosen to do from this new vantage point that you have or had, that's different than the vantage point that you had before, which said, this is so miserable, I think I'm going to kill myself. Now you have a chance where you have a wider palette, you have more paints, you have more opportunity to make it different. And it's still true that something is impacting you, like literally. And so Dave's laughing, but for me,
I was laughing. I did stop. I'm not still laughing.
yeah, you did. Yeah. No,
That's been a
but we
very
do
long.
we do kind of laugh about the whole Trump thing because in my, I say it funny, Godel, I say this inside out thing is completely real, it's completely true, completely accurate, except for the fact that I'm way overweight and I will never be skinny and Trump is an asshole. Those two things are just true. Everything else is up for my own inside out, but those two things are never going to change. So we laugh about it, but so I'm curious and I'm confident that I already know it, but I'm still curious. I want to ask about the difference between pain and suffering, about sustaining injury, sustaining brutality from another human being, and being able to forgive either in the moment or 5 minutes later or a month later. And choosing and that's not involving suffering. Am I making sense?
You're surely making sense, even though I might not get you 100%, but surely you're making sense. You're
Okay.
making sense.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, um, in the, I know that I may not be responding to your question right now, but what I can tell you is that I had to become physically disabled, right? And accepting that disability to be able to understand the reality of other people with disabilities, right? And be able to do something, mostly in South Africa, and now also in New Zealand, with the organization that we have just opened. I had to become a refugee. And this is from someone who is born in a traditional kingdom in Africa. And then I had to experience life of being a refugee. But then to come to understand exactly what is being a refugee. What does it really mean when they being a refugee? And I hope, and I've been telling people that I can tell you the story of being a refugee from my own experience, and you might end up crying. It's not easy. And I had to go through all this to understand who is a refugee and be able to do what I've been able to do in South Africa in very complicated context where some, if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see some places where I go in places with my wheelchair where houses are still burning. And I go there, houses are still burning. Like in Marabastad, the last one it was in Marabastad in 2019. That was in September, 2019 in September. You will see a video of mine and houses are burned. And I am there with my wheelchair trying to support those who are disabled like me. And I say, okay, if I have to die, I have to die with them here. Right. And I went there and you will see, there are some video like that. I think they're still on Facebook there. You'll see the smoke behind me. And you'll see somewhere a child that was burning. She was burning in the house there. And someone just jumped, took that child and gave me that child. And I have a picture of that child. Okay. So I came to the point that I could live this and feel it and understanding really what's the life of refugee. Yeah. So most of the time we go through reality, some situations, because we have a mission. We have something to do about that reality. That's why we have to go through all those kind of reality. I am in New Zealand right now, where just my first year, I came to realize exactly that when refugees come in New Zealand, there are something that people don't give attention to, and which that we come with a lot of trauma, right? Imagine someone coming from South Africa where he was about to be burned alive, right? And that psychological problem is still there, that trauma, and it's never been dealt with. And you go, boom, in a country where we find peaceful people, and sometimes you react like a stranger, and people don't understand you. They don't understand you, right? So these are the things that are happening in New Zealand. And people don't understand who are refugees. Who are these people? Where are these people coming from? Are they normal? Okay. But then we have to go through those things and understand that we must do something to raise awareness on the mental health of the refugees in these communities of New Zealand. We need to raise awareness of that issue, serious issue in the refugee communities of New Zealand. Otherwise, people will still pointing on those refugees. Oh, those are this, because they are not understood. They are not understood. Something has to be done. So, and I came to understand that by coming to New Zealand, that is exactly something that I need to do. So I said I might not give an answer to it, but I do believe that, Wendy, in all the things that you can go through in your life, and when you can stand yourself, okay, all right, it is okay. I'm the one, they beat me, they did it, but what can I do about this situation? What can I do? Yes, I have the pain on me, but what can I do? Why am I here for?
Mhm.
Why should I really be here now and see this and feel it? Why me? And then we connect exactly to the truth. So that is it. And now that I'm talking about the truth, that's why I wanted to make a comment there when you said, so you cannot know what you do not know. I think that's the sentence that you said. So you cannot know what you do not know. And yeah, this really touched me, my brother, because this is really the truth. Because I've been thinking of philosophy, for example. All right, because I am a philosopher. I've graduated in philosophy. All right, it's my domain, philosophy. And then all the sciences around, they are looking for the truth. They need. We are looking for the truth. And you cannot know what you do not know. What does it mean? For me, what I understand through that there is that this process of schooling, the process of schooling, when we go to school, we go to university, it's just a process of activating the knowledge, activating the truth that is within us, right? So we have the truth within, but it has to be activated. So there is a degree of awareness that needs to be involved there. So that you cannot know what you do not know. So you need to know, you need to be aware that you have the truth, and what is happening is just the connection to the truth. It's activation to the truth, activation to the reality, to the knowledge, to God within us. So that's the comment I wanted to put there, Adav. Yeah, man, because most of the time we think that the truth is outside there. What we need is outside there. But we ignore, we just don't want to accept that we have the truth and we are the truth. We just need to come back to ourselves and to connect the truth. And this is where I can say again, rather, that freedom thinking, it's something that can really help into changing this world and make it a better place, because it's helping the world to connect the truth. And where is this truth? It is within us. It's there. It's there. It's deep there. God is there. God is the truth.
It is the Bible. God is truth.
Exactly.
And also
Exactly.
the sentence, God is love. Love.
Exactly.
It's interesting you're saying that. I spoke about this at the conference because I spoke at the conference you spoke at a couple of years ago, this year. And I had all what I was going to talk about lined up, and I stood up on the stage and it all fell away, and I spoke about something else, and I spoke about a man that I met in Cape Town. I think I mentioned this a couple of community groups ago, but a man named Ben, a man who I'd been working in a charity, I forget which charity it might have been. I think it was probably Africa Tikkun or something like that. We've been working in this charity. I just got out, so we went for some nice food, and I love salad and raw food and organic food, and I like whole foods. And we went to our favourite restaurant in Woodstock in Cape Town called Raw and Roxy and had our food. They made us tons. And I had so much food, I left and I said I was going to give it to a homeless person. I came across this absolutely physically destroyed man on the street. He was a Cape coloured man, and he was he sat like this, and he crouched. He couldn't stand up. He couldn't straighten himself out. And when he walked like, imagine somebody crouched down. They can't straighten the legs, and they kind of just have to waddle along. He'd had a stroke, and his speech was he's quite difficult to understand. He spoke like that. But I remember him saying, he took the food off me and he said, "Thank you." I said, "Oh, you're welcome." And then he just carried on looking at me and he said, "May I know your name?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "My name's Dave." I said, "May I know you?" He said, "Nice to meet you, Dave." I said, "Nice to meet you." I said, "May I know your name?" He said, "Of course." He said, "My name's Ben." I said, "Oh, nice to meet you, Ben." And he carried on looking at me, and I just stood there, and he just looks and he says, "Dave, may I say, what a beautiful face of God you are." And I said, just looked at him, I said, "Thank you, Ben." I said, "May I say to you, what a beautiful face of God you are." And he just smiled, this big smile, and he went, "I know." And I tell you what, that was one of the biggest punches to my heart I've ever experienced in my life. This man who I always say is he had nothing physically on the outside. You know, his clothes were filthy. He stunk. He clearly hadn't washed. He had flies all over him. He was physically disabled. The light, the light in that man. Man, it was unbelievable. The love that came from that man. And when he said, "I know I'm a beautiful face of God," he wasn't being a victim. He wasn't suffering. He wasn't needing anything to be different in order to find his peace. He found his peace. He'd found his peace. And yeah, that man made me, when I walked back to the car, I got in the car with Jen and I burst into tears and I just cried and I cried and I cried. And he made me look at all the things I thought I needed in order to feel safe and secure, and all the things I thought I needed in order to feel like I had everything I needed, if you know what I mean. But that man had nothing, but he had everything. He had everything because he was just a man at peace. And you just reminded me of that, Godel, and because I often think about him, I send him love often. But one of the things that came to me as you were speaking just then, Godel, about when you responded to Wendy, was you were saying, you know, it was your understanding, and it feels like I know when I look at my own life. For example, I used to have so much judgment of people who had affairs. Right, if somebody had an affair, I remember my cousin. I don't actually remember doing this, but I remember my cousin told me I did it. So she's probably more right than I was, thinking that I hadn't done it because I used to smoke a lot of weed and I couldn't really remember much. But she said that when she had an affair, I rung her up and gave her a bit of a mouthful about it, saying, "Look what you're doing to the family. Look what you're doing to the family," and all this stuff. And I'd probably have been pissed when I did it. And I was quite ignorant. So I kind of held on to these grudges. And then life humbled me. It gave me that experience. Oh, you think you know something, smart ass, do you? You think you know something? Try a bit of that. You've obviously got a bit of ego about this, and I went through an affair, and I saw it's not somebody having their cake and eating it. It's actually quite a traumatic event for everybody involved. It's a horrible thing. And when I gained that understanding through like actually going through that experience, and I saw my own ego, it was like I could find forgiveness for other people. Forgiveness became really easy for me to do. How the hell can I cast judgment upon those people? Are you any better? No, you're not. And what this little sentence that just came to me is, understanding breeds forgiveness, ignorance breeds conflict. And I feel like that's what we're kind of, between us all tonight, that's what we're pointing to. We're pointing to an understanding. As we start to understand ourselves and we start to understand how we create our own experience of life, you start to see that in other people too. You start, oh, they're creating their experience of life. I remember getting into a fight with a dear friend of mine. He's one of my best mates. I love this man. We got into a fight. It was a horrible fight. We were both drunk. I really held some grudges towards him until I woke up. And then I realized, oh, I see how that works now. I see how we ended up in that fight. Both of us thought we were right. But both of us were so pig-headed, it ended up in a physical fight. But I also remember a man who we worked with who was sexually assaulted by his, no, not sexually, he never said sexually assaulted, my apologies. He said he was, how did he term it? Was it assaulted? I think it was assaulted, I can't remember now. By his mother's boyfriend when he was younger. And he said, for 50 years, I've carried this pain. He said, I've forgiven him. I said, okay. How have you come to that conclusion? He said, that man acted on a thought. But he didn't know that. He said he just looked real to him. He said, so I've forgiven him. He said, and so much of my sufferings disappeared. As we gain understanding into life, as we start to understand the psychological nature of reality, all these things that you've been Godel, you'd have spoken about it as a Catholic priest. You'd have spoken the word forgiveness. You'd have spoken it, and I knew that forgiveness was probably a good thing to do, but I thought holding on to a grudge was better because it kept me safe. But I love how what Godel was just speaking about there, just before, he was saying, well, I can carry around that. I can carry around all that suffering, or I can set myself free. I can live in that suffering. I can live in that hell. I can live with Satan, or I can live in alignment with God. And God is something that doesn't judge, because it's love. Love doesn't judge. Love is unconditional. Love is the true state of being. And so no, it was just something just a little statement that came to me. Understanding breeds forgiveness. Ignorance breeds conflict. And at the moment, I feel like we're going through a chapter in humanity's history where we have got a rise of understanding coming into this world, but we've also got an ignorance that is desperately trying to hold on tight. So we're seeing a rise of people who are becoming more spiritually aware, maybe not even necessarily through religion, but through conversation or actual experience or meditation, or even through their religions where they're actually having direct experiences of insight. And we also have this seriously kind of entrenched ignorance that's blighted humanity for what appears to me, I don't know, but probably quite a long time. I don't think we've always been this ignorant, you know, because I've been measuring stone circles, and I know I've discovered that stone circles are built on earth energy lines, ley lines. And, you know, those people were so connected to this planet that they knew that these invisible energy channels, rivers, coursed over the land, and they built their sacred sites where they crossed. And I've sat in those sacred sites, and I've prayed, and I've done things, and I've seen. I said, thought to myself, it was so nice to see a stoat. I haven't seen a stoat for a while. And 30 seconds later, a white stoat appears out of one of the standing stones and runs across in front of me. And those people knew. So it seems to me like it's a recent thing that our ignorance of who and what we are and our connection to nature is become more prevalent. But I also think that we are starting to go through I think Sid called it a renaissance of the mind. You know, we are starting to go through this understanding, and anybody who's watching this, you wouldn't be watching this if you were on a path of consciousness evolution. It couldn't possibly, you would just sack it off like the worst sounding noise you'd ever heard. It would be like heavy metal to somebody who loves panpipes. Yeah. So if you're watching this, you know, you are one of these people who I believe is starting to gain understanding, and as our understanding grows, forgiveness grows, and it gets to the point where forgiveness doesn't really become a thing, because you don't create the judgment and the grudge in the first place. You can start to just kind of live life with less of it. So it's beautiful because, you know, we've got a few continents involved in this conversation. We've got America, we've got Greenland, we've got New Zealand now, but it was initially South Africa, and we've got Great Britain as well. And, you know, we've got different countries involved. So every single one of us is a kind of, we're all lighthouses. If you're watching this, you are a lighthouse. You know, and it doesn't matter how much you think you've seen, because I tell you, you can never know. You can never know how much you've seen. So don't even try and measure it. You can't measure it. You can't measure the spiritual. It's immeasurable. Only the ego wants to measure something, see how big it is, see how well it's doing. No, it's immeasurable. You are an infinite spiritual being, infinite creator. Measure it. Go measure that. Go measure it. What are you going to measure it with? How much have you seen? I don't know. How much have I seen? I haven't got a clue. Seen deep? Have I? How deep's deep in infinity? Excuse all the flies. You know, and it's like, but we're all lighthouses, and we're all starting to shine light on the ignorance Del's so beautifully put within ourselves. Stop looking for other people's ignorances. Stop shining light on other people's ignorances. That's conflict. That's our own ignorance. Start to gain understanding for ourselves, and you start to gain understanding for others. And that is the only way I can possibly see that we bring around a more beautiful earth. The only way. It comes from us making different decisions. How do you make a decision in the first place? It comes from thought. Does it not? How could you make a decision without thought involved? So it comes from thought. And when you start to learn to utilize the power of thought in a more constructive way, perhaps more accurately, when you start to become more aware of how you think, you start to have more options. And one thing that this conversation does do, it brings your ego to your face more often than not. You start to see the bullshit you live out of. And once you see, you cannot know what you don't know, therefore you can't act on it. But once you become aware of it, now you've got options. And that's what this conversation is ultimately bringing to this world. It's bringing, and if you are somebody who's suffering psychologically and you're looking, well, yeah, but you're not talking about psychological suffering, you're not talking about depression, anxiety. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Absolutely, we are. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. About 15 minutes left. Godel, is there anywhere you want to take this conversation?
Thank you, Dave. Maybe just going back a little bit to I heard Wendy talking about Trump and yeah, all the So, my belief in this, because I've learned quite a lot now, and making sure that I don't making sure that I'm at peace, and just my experience now, sharing my experience on this, because we need to be at peace with some realities around this world. And how can we maybe be at peace? Talking about what if people think, because it's all about thinking here. If we can change the way we think, we change the reality around. What if people think that Trump might be a great opportunity for change in America, a great opportunity for change in the world? What if people think about that? Not seeing everything negative, but what if it is like that?
No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I'm also identifying with women who are right over there getting bruised and shoved in a car and taken away from their children today. Will the world change? Will America have a new day dawning? Yes, because of this maelstrom. Absolutely. 100%. And because this person says, go do it, there are big men wearing masks that come around and manhandle women, men, young people, old people, and shove them in cars and separate them from their children. Today, on July 14th, 2025, in Framingham, Massachusetts, where I live. So I'm not getting bruised today, but I might. I mean, maybe I'm going to be in the other group tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I will.
don't get that Canadian passport.
Yeah, right. The Canadian passport. But so I was intrigued with the existential change that can happen when you see the world with an expanded view, and Dave sees it, and Jenny sees it, and Wendy sees it, and Sika sees it, and Lisa sees it, and so many other people see it. And if Trump, doesn't see it, and he has power, then he's able to execute pain to other people. It's not really even a question so much as there's the hope that we have individually and corporately over time. And there's the real fact that there's somebody in South Africa right now holding a club and beating up somebody else from the Congo and throwing a firebomb at somebody else in a wheelchair. That's happening. And so there is something coming at me that I have to deal with. And the world isn't, my world might be different, but the world still has bad people, hurting people, violently perpetrating harm. So it was kind of that thing that you were speaking about, whereas I don't have, you, Godel said, I don't have to suffer. All of a sudden I realized I don't have to suffer. But that doesn't mean that you don't hurt when somebody picks up a stick and hits you. Like Dave always says that, you punch me in the face, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to respond. I'm going to react. I'm going to feel it.
But also, no, but a bit more
Go
accurately,
ahead.
the punch to my face doesn't determine how I experience it. This is the thing that we're trying to sever. This kind of umbilical cord between outside and inside. It doesn't exist. So I'm not saying things can't happen to us. We all have stuff happen to us. We're human beings. Godel just happens to be the person who sat on this screen right now, as far as I know, who's probably gone through what we would look at as being and deem as being the most horrific story. However, there is nothing outside of us that has the power to determine what we experience inside of us. This is the thing that more and more you start to wake up to. You start to realize, no, what is that? What's that last bit of Nelson Mandela's thing that kept him going? Whatever that poem, whatever it was, Invictus. I am the master of my ship. I am the captain of my soul. I'm the captain of my ship. I am the master of my soul. It's like you start to realize, yes, things can happen, but those things don't determine how you experience it. That's not the way it works. That's a scientific inaccuracy. It's scientifically inaccurate.
Right.
The only thing that has the capacity to create the experience is consciousness, is the power of thought. Now, the way how I choose to think about it in any given moment is how I experience it. So, it was like last night as you were speaking, Godel. I was thinking, like, Lucia wouldn't sleep last night. We're in our van. She wouldn't go to sleep. She wanted me to get into bed, and I got into bed, and I'm like, come on, go to sleep. 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 And she's getting kicking about. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm reading a book, and I'm going, if you're not listening, there's no point in me reading this book. Are you listening? Yeah, I'm listening. Blah, 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 blah. Right, you're not listening. Right, I'll come back in 10 minutes when you're a bit more calm. We'll read that book. 10 minutes. She ready yet? No, no, no. In the end, I got back into bed, and I did a little experiment. Rather than getting all kind of, come on, what the hell? Can you go to bed? Meeting your mum, a bit of us time. It was just, Seeker, don't laugh. That wasn't what you thought. Was actually. It was brilliant. I lay down next to her, and I calm myself right down. I use my mind just to calm my mind down. Jenny says this is something she does. And I got myself into a very, very peaceful state. And as I descended into this peaceful state, so did Lucia at the same rate. And within 5 or 10 minutes of that, she was asleep. And it was such an interesting thing. I'm so used to kind of going, oh, come on, Lucia, get to bed, get to sleep, get to sleep. Come on, Lucia, get to sleep. Let's read Lucia a story. But when I realized that given the outside, Lucia, if I change my inside, I have a different experience. It also affected the outside. So it's like, I'm not saying things don't happen, and Godel clearly isn't saying things don't happen to you in life. However, those things don't have the power to determine how you experience them. They never have had the power to determine how you experience them. Have you got anything to say on that, mate?
Thank you, Dave. And thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Dr. Shika. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, everyone. I think this was for me an opportunity to celebrate my 7 years since I've been born to the three principles. And thank you to all of you guys. And also thank you in advance for any of the donation that might come our way. We do really appreciate this. And for those needing prayers, the prayers will come your way. Thank you again.
Godel, how can people get in touch with you?
So actually it's I have an email. I don't know where I can put. Should I put it in the chat here?
Yeah, put it in the chat, and or if you say it out. Yeah, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
It
I
looks like
don't think.
it looks like the chat's disabled, Dave.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the chat is disabled.
How do I do that?
So
I don't know, but it's probably, I don't know. Can you just spell it out, Godel? Your email?
yeah, so it's Godel as it is Godel, Godel. So it's Godel Sefu. It's Godel Sefu, and then number 8. It is Godel Sefu 8 at gmail.com. Godel Sefu 8 at gmail.com. Yeah,
Great.
so I have a WhatsApp number, but don't know if
No,
um,
we'll put that out.
is that necessary?
I don't think so, mate. Do you think?
Yeah. So the email address will be
I'd
much
just keep your
better.
mobile off YouTube. You don't know what happens.
Absolutely. So
We're learning the hard way about about what kind of there are some other kind of people on this planet who really do want to annoy you. So they try.
thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, people, if you're watching this and you have a chat show or anything like that, you do a podcast, if you do anything like that, get in touch with this man, talk to him. You know, he's a truly wonderful man. Please get in touch with him. Godel Sefu, GODELSEFU 8 at gmail.com. I'm going to put that email address in the description below. Please, 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 we don't beg for donations. I'm begging for donations tonight. Please give generously. All the money's going to go to Godel and his family. Okay. They're new people in New Zealand. They haven't got jobs as yet. They need the help. So please, please, please give generously. In the links below, you can give. Please put in the description Godel. Please, can you put Godel in there so we know that the money is meant for Godel, and we'll send it straight over to him. Okay. So wonderful man. Godel Sefu, everyone. Bless you,
Bye.
man.
Thank you, Godel. Bye, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Same again next Monday. All being well, and look forward to seeing you. God bless everyone.
Okay. Bye, lovelies. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Godel, just wait on, mate. Seeker, God bless, lovely. Love you, love. Lise, God bless.
Bye, love.
Bye.